returning promptly. And as we arrange the podium for our speaker, I thought it would take a moment or two to inform you that we will have an Advent morning of reflection. It seems like that'll be a long time away from now, but we were so lucky to engage Jane Trufant Harvey to speak in November, first week of Advent, I believe Monday, November 28th. And if you signed in the back of church, we will send you an email reminding you about it. So that will be way in the future. More immediately, these mornings of reflection are sponsored by the Catholic Women in Action, which is a part of the Catholic Community Foundation. We'll have a little bit more about that later, but I did want to tell you that there is a morning of reflection on the South Shore on March the 22nd. There are flyers in the back of church to give you information about that morning. The speaker and celebrant will be Father James Weiner. Father James Weiner is the rector at Notre Dame Seminary, and the very nice thing about it is also that the Mass will be in the seminary chapel. So you're invited to come to that, pick up a flyer in the back of church, and you'll have all the information you need about the South Shore Morning of Reflection. Let's see. Look, it very much begins to look like our speaker might be getting ready. We'll take one more moment to tell you that following the speaker, we're going to have the Stations of the Cross. See, they're all around the church here. And since we have the outdoor Stations of the Cross, we thought for the more adventurous, we would try to do at the same time do outdoor Stations of the Cross. So I hope you can join us for either the indoor or outdoor Stations of the Cross. And now Paulette will introduce our speaker, Paulette Ranadin. Thank you.
Danny really needs no introduction, but I'll give it my best. And after I introduce Danny, we're all going to sing Spirit of the Living God, okay? It's great honor and privilege that I introduce our speaker today, Danny Charbonnet. Danny and I knew each other in New Orleans before either of us was married. And later we both ended up living on the North Shore, where we shared the same babysitter for our only daughters. When I think of Danny, the scripture passage that comes to mind is Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Danny has always been passionate about her faith, which is the most driving force in her life. She also is permanently rooted in one of the cushions at St. Peter's Adoration Chapel and has been there since it opened. Danny has selected and directed the plays in the theater department of St. Paul's School for over 30 years. Danny named the school theater department the Marian Players because of her personal devotion to the Blessed Mother. She felt Our Lady's intercession strongly. She transformed a dormant theater program into a thriving experience for the whole community. I know many of you have enjoyed attending her productions. Danny is a youth magnet and has led them in their faith to Jesus through Mary. Danny and her son, Father Bo, started the CCRNO North Shore Prayer Group that attracted local youths for many years and has spoken at their yearly conferences and baptized many of those youths in the Holy Spirit. Danny is a pure Marian role model for kids. She continues to inspire all of us after watching her live through her own personal way of the cross with Elise. We love you, Danny, and I have even heard you called St. Denny of the North Shore. Please welcome everyone's friend, Danny Charbonnet.
You're welcome and invited and expected to join in blessing Denny by singing Spirit of the Living God. Spirit of the living God, fall the fresh on her. Spirit of the living God, fall the fresh on her. Melt her, mold her, fill her, use her. Spirit of the living God, fall the fresh on her.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me? Is the mic on? Working, okay. I'm moving this back a little. I asked if I could come down to speak because, and if you all, people on the sides, if you all don't mind, could you all scoot in towards the center? Would that be a problem for people to do that? Or is that possible? Oh, wait, Bo, maybe you can help me. We'll move the mic right up, the podium right up there. I'm a theater teacher, so sight lines are important to me. Very important. Yeah. Am I connected? I'm disconnected. Am I connected now? Can you all hear me again? Yay. Yeah. Teaching theater, it's always, I would walk around the theater at St. Paul's and make sure I could see the stage and that we could see you. So basically, my sight lines are important. I can see you. I want to see your faces and want to see your eyes. Paula, thank you for that beautiful introduction. St. Denis of the North Shore scares the living daylights out of me, just so you know. But I'm praying, I asked that we pray Spirit of the living God over me because this is the Holy Spirit going to speak. I have prayed about this talk when Bibi called back in the fall and asked me to speak. I prayed about it and the Lord said, yeah, you can do this. And then as we got closer, I went, oh, why did I say that? There's a lot here that I have truly never unpacked or never opened up publicly. As you all know, most of you know the story, my daughter Lise passed away a year and a half ago. And some of this I've never really shared publicly, so thank you all for being here. God bless you, because Holy Spirit is hopefully coming through me. It's from Him through me to you. What I want to share about is finding joy in suffering. Now that seems like a contradiction in terms, right? Joy and suffering. I mentioned it to someone and they went, joy and suffering? Are you serious? It is not the happy, happy, joy, joy. It's joy, that deep joy that you know, that you know, that you know, that Jesus is alive. He died for me. He loved me. He loves me. He always has been with me and He always will. That's joy. And we also know about what hurricanes are. We're from Southeast Louisiana. We know a storm. We know a Cat 1, a Cat 2, a Cat 3, a Cat 4, and a Cat 5. I'm going to share some of my 1 through 5 category experiences and how the Lord brought joy in those moments. He's the God of the impossible. He can do it all, and we trust in Him. Two of my favorite verses are Jeremiah 29:11. You know well the plans I have for you, plans for your welfare, not for woe, plans to give you a future full of hope. And I'll show you how that traveled through my life and is still moving. And also Romans 8:28, He will bring all good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. So hang on, hold on to those two. I grew up good Catholic, good family, happy childhood. My first storm hit when I was 16 years old. My junior year of high school, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she had a radical mastectomy in February. I'm an only child. In April of that year, my dad suddenly passed away from a heart attack, totally unexpected. And in October of that year, my mother had her second mastectomy. That year was a tough one for me. My dad was my rock. He was the most Christ-like human being I've ever met who walked the face of the earth. He was unconditional love. He loved me. He was God the Father's love. I had such a good relationship with the Father because of my own earthly father. When my father passed away, my mom passed away, well, mother had her breast cancer, I'm sorry. She lived 30 more years following those surgeries. But when she first had her surgery, we were shaken. But my dad was my rock. He saw us through. God's got this. He's going to take care of us. We'll be fine. In April of that year, when my dad suddenly passed away, the bottom fell out of my life. I didn't know what to do with myself. My mom had come home. My dad had been sick that day. They were on their way to the doctor when in the car and came in to tell me. And I remember going into the bedroom where he had been before that, lying down on the bed because I wanted to be the closest to where he had been. But I was angry. I was crying. I was angry. I'm telling God, excuse me, Mom just had breast cancer. Did you not see this? What is going on? Crying. I'm angry. I finally remembered a word my mother told me after 1 hour. People are filling the house. They left me alone because I was my own little hurricane in there. They did not want to enter and touch where I was. And a word that my mother told me after she realized and she found out she had breast cancer, she said, God, give me the grace to accept this. And she said this head to toe peace flooded her. And so I am desperate. It's the end of an hour. I know I've got to walk out there. And I knelt down by the crucifix in my parents' bedroom. And I said, God, give me the grace to accept this. Immediately, this head to toe peace flooded me. And I heard this word in my heart that says, He's with me and He's fine. I was so overwhelmed by that. Before that, I thought prayer was this one-way street. You know, I'm a theater teacher. I'll use my term, a monologue. I thought it was me talking to God and God listening, but I didn't think He'd talk back to me. I was so stunned that He loved me that much that He spoke to me and He said, my dad was with Him and he's fine. After that, I walked out, tears over. I was a different person. The Lord had told me my father was with Him. What more do you want? You know? And that's it. And even when my mom was diagnosed again in October of that same year, I was okay. I knew that God had us. He had it. We were going to be okay. I went off to college, powerfully practicing Catholic just because of my parents' example, and met my husband. We married the late 60s, and then we had children, 2, my son Beau, my son Jean, and then later on my daughter Elise. And into the 70s we go. Well, who can tell us how we survived the 70s? I don't know. It was the craziest time. I mean, faith-wise, we were post-Vatican II. There was so much confusion understanding the documents. There was such confusion in our church and our lives. And by the mid to latter part of the 70s, our marriage started to fall apart. We started to have problems, and it began to crumble. We were having issues. And when Elise was very, very little, we separated. Not once. First time we separated, I said, okay, God, I'm here with you. Come on, help me, God. By the second time we separated, I went, okay, God, I'm done with you. That's really lovely, isn't it? He had spoken to my heart, and I wasn't totally done, but I pushed him back here. I pushed him off to the side, and I said, okay, God, you stay over here. I'll stay there. I'll go to church. I'm going to sit in the back on Sundays. I'm going to do that, but I'm really frustrated with you. I thought I did everything I was supposed to, and we separated again. We finally got back together because I said I worked hard to get this marriage back together. Brilliant, right? And then we moved to the North Shore. We came over here we were living in New Orleans, in Medjugorje. Okay, we're going to start all over. The problem is that bridge is 24 miles long. You can't take dirty laundry with you, and you can't take baggage with you and expect it to be okay. That should have gone overboard. Talk about being in a ship in the middle of a storm, we should have dumped that overboard, and unfortunately we didn't. So by the time we hit the late 80s and mid 80s, things started to happen again. And just like any kind of dirty laundry surfaces, it surfaced. And I could see where we were going. We were in counseling, we were in therapy, but going nowhere. And I was still angry with God. I'm going, well, what? We did everything we were supposed to, right? Still, nothing moved, nothing happened. And finally, by the year 1987, we separated for a third time. Now, in the middle of it all, to show you where God brings light into darkness. My love was theater from the time I was 5 years old. When I was a senior in high school and I wanted to go to New York to study, because eventually I wanted to go on Broadway, I had big plans, and I'm an only child, and my mom said, no, this is not the life for you. I don't want you doing this. I'm sure she was absolutely right. That was not the place for me to be. So my other love is history, political science. I love it. I love political analysis. So this is what I studied at Loyola with a degree in secondary education. I went to Mount Carmel and I taught for 2 years. I taught U.S. history and civics. Loved every minute of it. In the mid-'80s, and then I retired from teaching when Beau was born. And of course, when Jean was born, I needed to be home with my children. Well, mid-'80s, a friend of mine could see the struggles we were going through. And she said, I'm studying theater. Would you like to come, Danny, and do a workshop in the summertime over at Playmakers, our community theater? She said, I've heard you talk about it a little bit. I think that's a love of yours. It really is. And my sons, it's obviously a genetic thing, they were getting roles in plays at school. And I had never spoken about theater being a love of mine, but they were being cast in shows. In fact, they came home one summer with a note going, find a workshop for them in the summertime, do something. So actually Beau and I did a workshop together. Jean did a workshop with my friend. In the middle of it, the man who was teaching the workshop said, would you audition for a play in the fall? I went, okay. I did the play, and in the middle of the show, I went, I'm going back to school. This is what I love. So mid-'80s, 1985, I'm back in school, loving every minute of it. Spent 2 years, and then came in 1987, right when our marriage is falling apart. I approached Brother Ray and said, would you be interested in the theater program at St. Paul's High School? He said yes. He said yes. He had never had anything like that. It had been years since they had had theater actually active on the campus. The man said yes. He loved the fine arts. And I went, God love you. And I taught one class that year and directed 3 shows. By the next year, I was full-time because the whole program exploded. Thank you, Lord. So in the middle of all this, God brought me some light in this because there was something I just really loved. The marriage was falling apart, and then something else happened. I started to pray a rosary every day. I was really desperate. I could see things within our marriage and our family life, and I went, I'm going to pray the rosary. And this is how sad it is. I hadn't prayed a rosary in so long, I could only remember the joyful mysteries. So I did them day after day after day. I would walk and pray the joyful mysteries and walk and pray the joyful mysteries. And in the middle of all this, the words about Medjugorje, where Our Lady had allegedly begun appearing in 1981, started to really speak to me. Every time I went into town for anything, I ran into a friend who had been to Medjugorje. And I was like, oh, not this again, not this again. But it kept coming. And then Beau and I sat one night and watched a special on Medjugorje by Mary Lou McCall and Jim Bailey. This was in 1987, right, Beau? 86. And it touched our hearts because we saw people talking about peace that we had none of, absolutely none of. And so he approached my mom to say, would she send us to Medjugorje? And my mom, who could see where we were also, said, okay, yes, because she was actually hoping, I think, A, to go with us, and B, that it would save our marriage. But by the time we hit April of '87, our trip was scheduled for June. We separated for the last time. And Elise wound up taking the spot, I think, that we had for my ex-husband. And she wound up coming and had a tremendously powerful experience. A friend of hers had been, and she goes, Mom, can I go? So I called my mom. I said, can she go? She went, let me call. Yes, there's a spot. She's with you. So Beau, Jean, and I went to, Beau, Jean, Elise, and I went to Medjugorje. When we went, after we separated, I had a little bit of an edge to myself. I was really lovely. How the Lord has been so patient with me, I don't know. But I had a little bit of an edge, and I'm going, okay, I think I'm fine. We separated, tension's out. I think that's what I needed to do. But all right, if you want me to go, I'll go. I even told someone, I'm open, but I'd really rather be on the beach. And see, there's the beauty of God. He takes that. He takes that and he goes, okay, you're fine. You can say anything you want, but you're going. We just wait. And we were there for, I forget how many days, when suddenly we hear that there's going to be an apparition on Mount Križevac because one of Our Lady's prayer groups, Yvonne's prayer group, was going up there. The 24th of June was the anniversary of the time she first appeared to them On the 25th is when she first spoke to them. So Bo and Elise and I go up early because we want to be at the base of that cross. There's a huge concrete cross and right where the visionary is coming. So we get up there early. Jean comes up with the priest and some other people in our group. He's towards the back of the mountaintop. I think there are thousands of people on that mountaintop at that point. And I still was a little bit of a skeptic. I was there, but I was a little bit of a skeptic. Now, mind you, we've just separated. There's been storm in our family, storm clouds, huge ones. And Our Lady breaks through it all. We're on the top of that mountain. And me, the skeptic, looks up when the visionary is praying, and I see an image of the Blessed Mother, a silhouette of her like this. Bo sees her slightly, you were a little bit further away from me. He sees her with her hand in a blessing, and he sees a crown of stars. Elise sees a totally different image, and Jean, who's at the back of the mountaintop, sees an image of crucified Jesus on the cross. So you know this is not manufactured, because my first theater brain, because I've just come out of studying, says there's a nun and somebody is backlighting with a follow spot and they're throwing it. We're on the top of a mountain, mind you. There is no way. Until it finally hit me. That's when my life was changed. I think all of our lives were changed. I came down that mountain. We left, I guess, around midnight or so after the apparitions. Bo went ahead, Jean went ahead. Elise and I went slowly. And because we had to stop, I was so overwhelmed by the love of God that he would take me, a very angry person, who had basically taken him many, many times and done this, and said, but I love you, and I'm sharing my mother with you. Just blew me away. So anyhow, to continue and to fast forward a little bit, our love, all of us, for the Lord, for Our Lady, took over, totally took over. That's how St. Paul's theater program became the Marian Players. Because I asked Brother Ray, I said, please, can we do this? Absolutely. Mary became my anchor at that point. She was dressing us up and taking us to her son. The 90s were actually pretty good to us. Rocky when you're dealing with divorce and that type of family life, but still good. We were able to start on the top of the mountain on Mount Crucifix actually in 1990 when we brought people back with us. I heard the Lord say, form a prayer group. We started a rosary group that turned into CCRNO North Shore Youth Group in our theater building, which was just amazing. Our theater program was the Marian Players, absolutely grace of God. Things were moving along. All of my children had the blessing of being able to go to Franciscan University. Bo for a year of postgraduate work, Jean for 2 years after he transferred from Loyola, and Elise for 4 years. Blessing and a half. Jean wound up serving on net ministry, following his years at Franciscan, which is where he met my daughter-in-law Janice, his beautiful wife. They both served doing youth ministry, both in the United States and in Canada. Bo entered the seminary. Elise met Jason, her incredible husband, and they worked with Willwood's Foundation, doing Christian marriage and family. Blessings, just so many blessings. I mean, you can't even imagine. Again, rocky, dealing with divorce, dealing with life. All of us here deal with life. It's never smooth. It's always rocky. But our faith grew. I was committed to daily mass. My rosary, when Bo talked about us being superheroes, that is our sword right there, right? Our sword is that rosary. And then the Lord called me, will you spend 1 hour with me? And he didn't mean just sit at home and spend an hour with me. He said, come to see me in the Blessed Sacrament. So before we had the chapel at St. Peter's, I would come to Our Lady of the Lake. I would go sit in any church where I saw that red light lit by the tabernacle. Jesus is here and I'm here with you. And I was there. I was committed. I knew the importance of that. The Lord was building that strength and that relationship with me. Everything moved along. I have 10 incredible grandchildren. Jean and Janice, who were living in Canada, moved back here. And Bo was ordained as a priest for the Archdiocese of New Orleans. What more can you ask, right? But nothing could prepare me for what happened in 2014. Oops. let me hold it together here. Elise was diagnosed with breast cancer. When that happens to your child, the only term I can think of is you're dealing with the unimaginable. You're dealing with the unimaginable. The possibility of your daughter having a life-threatening illness. It's the unimaginable. I'm a theater person. I'm a Hamilton fan also. I saw Hamilton in 2016 with the original cast. But there's a song in there because we know, if you know the story of Alexander Hamilton, he lost his son Philip in a duel. And there's a song in there that really speaks to me. The song is entitled, It's Quiet Uptown. But they talk about him dealing with, post his son's death, the unimaginable. And I thought that word expresses it so perfectly. And I'll give you the opening lyric. There are moments that the words don't reach. There is suffering too terrible to name. You hold your child as tight as you can, and you push away the unimaginable. And that's exactly what you do. You push, you don't want to deal with it. You know it's there, you know it can happen, but you got to move forward. And now she's going into treatment. She needs me. The kids need me. Okay, I go straight. Where do I go? My go-to is Mary. I go directly to the Blessed Mother and say, okay, Mary, I'm here. What have you got? And she goes, I've got this. I've got this. I've got this. So I rested with her. I thought, if anybody understands suffering and the suffering of a child, it's our Blessed Mother. I hung out with Mary constantly. I have a picture of her. Actually, Elise brought me back from a trip to Austria when she was in Austria with Franciscan. And it's this beautiful picture of Mary holding the infant Jesus. And she looks down like this. And it's above my mantle in my bedroom. And so I rest my hands on the mantle and I talk to her every day. It's okay, Mary, we're in this together. As many of you know, she went through several years of treatment and always hopeful. It always looked hopeful. I am Pollyanna. I am the person, God just put that personality in me, thank you, Jesus, to always be on the bright side. But it doesn't mean I'm always there. There are times I can go whoosh, and the Lord has to pull me back up. But at that point, I felt like I was a prisoner of hope, because the Lord said, just hope in me, rest in me. Remember the words I gave you, rest in me, hope. So it did. And we worked through those years. There were several years. 2016, we dealt with a recurrence. But okay, the Lord said, I've got this. Her wonderful oncologist, Dr. Jay Sachs, kept saying, I've always got something in my back pocket. Something's always there. Then we hit 2017 when she was diagnosed with almost 40 tumors on her brain. That blew my mind. I remember walking through a grocery store looking for a loaf of bread that I couldn't even find because all I was thinking, I wanted to stand in the middle of the store and scream to people, do you know my daughter has cancer and there are 40 tumors on her brain? Does anybody know this? But obviously I just kept on moving and said, okay, Lord, let me come back to you. And he said, I've got this. I've got this. Hang in there with me. We'll do this. And she was, I can say nothing more about my daughter except that she was one of the most courageous people I've ever met. She fought through that. She fought for her family. She was fighting for her family. And she fought through that. And I had the privilege of being right by her side, fighting with her. You know, Jason was there, I was there, our whole family was there. Beau, Jean, Lise, we were there for her, fighting with her and fighting with those kids. I feel like she mentored me for where I am right now, because when she was first diagnosed, she gave all of us jobs, and she goes, I want you, Mom, to pick up the kids. I would come up here. First, they were at Mary Queen of Peace, and come up here every day. St. Paul's was fabulous. They would give me a sub at the end of the day if I had a class at the end so I could get up here. If I want consistency, you know me, you know my house, you know how I live, and you know how I raise these kids. I would come home every day with her whenever she was really sick with the kids, and I would be there. That first year, I think I was putting Nora to bed at night. Through dinner, everything. What can I do? What can I do? And then when she was well, backed away, let Elise be the mom she knew she was and wanted to be. And when she got sick again, okay, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Where the rubber really hit the road was in 2019. That's when she was diagnosed, because they had a wonderful procedure called a gamma knife that could go in and zap the tumors. 2019, the tumors were so large, she had to have extra radiation as well as on steroids. And Elise hated being on steroids. And any of you know who ever take steroids, particularly the massive doses that she would have to, it just affects you. The tumors and that pressure in there affected her in so many ways. If you know of anyone who's ever had a brain injury, brain cancer, anything like that, it affects everything about the person. And it's so hard, and it's so painful to watch. We were still hopeful, and I remember the Lord was preparing me, because that Christmas of 2019, we always come to my house for Christmas Day. I remember looking across the room at Elise, and she has a big old smile on her face, and it just hit me in here, will she be with us next Christmas? And I went, that's the unimaginable, not going there now, not gonna go there. As we move through the years, she's in and out of the hospital at the beginning of 2020, and there's not a person in here. 2020, you say that, and everybody goes, ugh. I think we could all take 2020 and punt it, right? Tough year for all of us. But for us, we were walking through a different journey. And in the beginning of 2020, she was in and out of the hospital. And then as the year progressed, they changed her treatment. You could see her health deteriorating. You watched it from every aspect. And we moved through that, still hopeful, because Jay Sox was going, we're still hopeful. But you saw things were happening that were not explainable. And it was finally in July of 2020 that they realized she had leptomeningeal disease, meaning her body was clear, her scans looked great, but in doing a spinal tap, they discovered that the cancer had invaded all the membranes, the protective membranes of the brain were invaded with cancer. And there was nothing else that could be done. This was it. Again, I'm going to go to a verse from Hamilton, because it was July of 2020, the end of July, that Jay Sox came to the house to tell us it was time to put Elise in hospice care. There are moments that the words can't reach. There's a grace too powerful to name. We push away what we can never understand. We push away the unimaginable. The grace was there. The grace came. It flooded us. It flooded that house. It's something, if anyone had said to me before, what would you do when you're told that Elise is going to be on hospice care? I'd fall apart. At first I did, kind of like, okay, let me go. I got to go see Jesus. Because I was, okay, Lord, I know you've prepared us. I know this is inevitable. I've watched her. I want her healed, but I want her totally healed. But the Lord moved in. That's all I can say. If I even tell you, I couldn't even tell you how, why, but it happened. We were in the middle of a storm. This was like I wouldn't even say a Cat 5, this was a Cat 6. This passed it, past anything. And who is in the eye of what is the eye of a storm like? It is calm. It is serene. It is calm. And there we were in the eye of the storm, and we were calm because Jesus was there. He was in the center. He was in the eye with us, holding on to us. If anyone a month before had said, oh, you'll be calm in the middle of all this, I went, you're crazy. Do you know me? Are you serious? It was phenomenal. It was just phenomenal. It was a deep sense of God's presence. And there's a word that came to me. In fact, it was 2 days after we had put her in hospice care. Jason asked me to come to the house when Notre Dame Hospice, who were phenomenal, came to meet with us. The next day, Father Jacob Dumont came to hear our confessions, and I was the last person in, and the Lord kept having me look forward to where Elise was going. And I walked in, and Father Jacob had this big smile on his face. He says, do you realize what God is preparing for Elise? Do you know what he's getting ready for Elise? Think about that. And I said, Father, that's where the Lord's taking me, so that's where I have to stay. He kept leading us forward. Was it a hard time? Oh my gosh, yes, yes. In fact, one night I woke up in the middle of the night with my heart just going like this because I was thinking, I had a dream that I had to go back and go through that again. And I'm thinking, the Lord's grace was there for that moment. Now, this was many months later, I have to deal with where I am right at this moment. But at that moment, through those weeks, the Lord was with us. Janice, my daughter-in-law, had a beautiful image that she gave me of me at the foot of the cross, hanging onto the cross, and Mary's arms weren't just around me, she was underneath me and scooping me up and holding me. It was so profound to me because I thought, that's what's happening. That's why I can do this. She understood being at the foot of the cross, watching her son. I think Elise was on that cross, but I was there with Mary supporting me because she had totally understood. During that, Elise, I think it was about a little over 2 weeks that Elise lived in hospice care. During that final week when she couldn't speak, that was our most profound week in the most overwhelming sense of God's presence. Many of you may have heard the story, but if you hadn't, I can tell you, she wasn't able to speak, but she communicated with us. She was upstairs in her bedroom, in a hospital bed, and she could communicate with gestures. Bella was her interpreter, her oldest daughter. Bella was the interpreter. And we all got to spend time with her. The way she'd tell you that she loved you. I remember one morning I brought the kids to school and I came back and she was trying to speak and Bella's going, she's telling you she loves you, Granny. She's saying, I love you. And she would grab your hand, she'd hold your hand, she'd pull you close to her. She understood fully what was going on, but she communicated in little gestures and little ways. And at one point midweek, because I knew when people are passing, usually the Lord comes to visit or he sends family members to visit with them. And I said, she's looking straight ahead. We got to find out who she's looking at. There are people, this room is full. This is a busy room right here. And Bella got from Elise, as Elise is in bed right here, as she looks to the right, it's the Blessed Mother and my mom. The Lord sends family members. And Elise was very close to my mom. And my mom was there. To the left was St. Michael. And the way she showed Bella was, when Bella was trying to guess who was over there, she went like this. Her theater background came through, and it was like this. You know, St. Michael, the angel. Then Elise was a singer. So she's looking ahead, and she's doing this with her fingers. There was 2 rows of angel choirs, but they were singing because Elise liked up-tempo music, an up-tempo song. I mean, that's unbelievable. But this room was filled, and you felt it when you walked in there. You just could go, oh, because there was just a strong sense of, she's got 1 foot in heaven and 1 foot here. I mean, she is just, it's such a joy for her. Because if you watch someone suffer for so long, and you know they're going to be healed, it's like a burden's lifted. You know, a tremendous burden is lifted. We were able to be there the morning that she passed. We also had a prayer meeting in there because Bo had done some prayer services for us for Elise, praise and worship in the theater she wanted every time she went into a major procedure. And we did it, and it was wonderful. We came in that Friday night, right before she passed. Jason said, I know she wants one more. And we got Eric Cedar, Matt Ziefel, John Ware, her good friends, Cecile, Danielle, and Kim, very small group. We came to the house, and our family, our immediate family, the grandchildren, her nieces and nephews, and we were upstairs in the room, and they were downstairs in the foyer of the house singing praise and worship. Do you know what she did? She takes Jason's hand, and she's raising it in the air. Raising it in the air. You think she doesn't know what's going on here? She's right there with us. When Sophia started to cry, it was the sweetest thing. Next to her, she took Sophia's hand and she just rubbed it. She rubbed Sophia's hand. And so Sophia, I sat next to Sophia. I said, that's your mom telling you she loves you. She knows how you feel. Jude and I got to spend time in the room with her by ourselves. I'd be in there sometimes. Jude would walk in, and we got to be on either side of the bed and talk to Elise. And there's one time Jude's looking at her, and she's looking straight ahead. And I said, Jude, ask who she's seeing. So he goes and he gets a picture of Mary, and he brings it over, and she goes a thumbs up. Yep, that's who I'm looking at. I mean, it was just amazing. And I had the blessing. I was able to, the Lord told me, I want you to give her to me. In other words, death is not a taking away, it's a giving. I'm giving her to you, Lord. She's mine, but I'm giving her back. Janice had said, I have a feeling, I feel that you are birthing her into heaven. The birth pains, the pains you're feeling now are birthing her into heaven. So I got to sit on the side of the bed, and I said, Lise, I'm giving you to Mary. I'm passing you on to Mary. And at one point, Jude and I were in there together, and I said, Jude, you want to do this together with me? We're going to give your mom to Mary. It was an incredibly powerful, grace-filled moment. I told Jason, as a husband, he basically was a witness of the most powerful, unconditional love for his kids because of his love for his wife and for his family. He witnessed that. All of the kids witnessed that. All of our family, Beau, Jean, Janice, me, everyone, her dad, witnessed that love, that unconditional love. She passed away on Sunday, August 16th. And we were celebrating Mass. Beau was set up in her room to celebrate Mass on a hospital tray. And then we watched her breathing change. The Lord waited for everybody to get there, the whole family to arrive. And then Bella looks at it and she says, Grammy, look at Mom, her breathing is changing. Beau saw it. We got in closer. Her dad and I got to be on the side of her when she passed. And we passed her on to Him. We had given her to Jesus. Jesus wasn't taking, He was allowing us to give her. He gave us the grace to give her back to Him. It was a powerful moment. And you know what else the Lord did for me? Joy in the suffering. He gave me the same words for Elise that He gave about my dad. When I looked to Beau and I said, she's gone, he went, yep. And the word came to me, she's with me and she's fine. And I knew that I knew that I knew she was in the Father's arms. She was being wrapped by the Father, pure and simple, hugged, wrapped by the Father. He loved her and loves her so much. In the year and a half since, it's been a trial, you know. We have felt it. It's not easy. That first year, you're in shock, you're getting over the pain, and you're saying, thank God she's not in pain any longer. She's fully alive. Jesus is fully alive. She is fully alive and totally healed with Him. Amen. But we hit Christmas Day that first year, and I was having a rough morning. Everybody was coming over. The Archbishop had given Beau the permission to celebrate Mass with our family because he knew that Elise would have wanted that. And I am just in a wham-wham mood. We all get there, right? Thank heaven the Lord is patient with my wham-whams. So I have about half an hour window before I have to put the food in the oven, and I go down to the chapel, and I want to hear her voice. She would call me in the morning, Merry Christmas, Mom, and then all the kids would get on the phone. And I'm down in the chapel. Now, mind you, I've talked to the Blessed Mother. A friend of mine sends me an image of the Blessed Mother on my phone. Now, that's not enough. I'm going, that was nice, but. How many of us are saying to God, that's nice, but. And I did. And so I'm sitting there, I have about a half an hour, then I'm wang in the chapel. And I get my coat on, kneeling to go. And I said, okay, God, you got one more shot. That's really generous, right? I gave Him one last shot. Boy, did He show up. Within seconds, Elise was next to me. Next to me. I've never had that happen before, but she was tangibly next to me. Couldn't see her, I couldn't feel her, but I knew it. And I'm having this conversation. There's one other man in the chapel. Fortunately, I didn't speak out loud or he would have put me away. But I'm in my heart going, is Mary here? She goes, yeah, Mom. Mary was over here. Elise was over here. Then, of course, I'm pushing the questions. I'm thinking, I got her. I'm asking her stuff. And I said, Elise, are my mom and dad here? She goes, yes. And with that, Mary moves around here, and my mom and dad are on this side. And then she goes, Mom, look in front of you. Your grandchildren. I'm with your grandchildren in heaven. She had lost 3, and I couldn't visibly see them. But I saw a 4th child with dark curly hair. And I'm saying, who is that? Jean and Janice had lost a baby, and they named the baby Francis. And that was their child. I have 4 grandchildren in heaven. And then beautiful thing about this is all I could see was that baby's dark curly hair. I couldn't see anything else with my mind's eye. And Olivia, John Janice's daughter, Olivia, has dark curly hair. And I always wondered why she was the only one in the family with that. And I got to come back to the house that day, right before Mass, and share this with everyone. Say, Olivia, you're not alone. You've got a little sibling in heaven that looks just like you. But I floated out of the chapel that day. And the word that I had for my family and for everyone here is, the veil between heaven and earth is so thin. Those loved ones who have gone ahead of us, they're with us. I mean, before I left, that chapel filled with my family who had gone ahead. And it was amazing. But just to tell you, God is with us. If he allows our family to be that close, imagine how close he is. Just imagine. You know, he walks beside us, walks ahead of us, surrounds us. And as Waymaker says, he's working for us, in us, and through us constantly because he loves us that much. I know he's with me now. I know he's with all of us now. As we go through the process of grief, because it's a process, there are the ups, the downs. You know, the life has its wonderful ups, and all of a sudden, something very small will go, oh. Right now, it's the ache of actually missing my daughter, missing her, knowing that I won't see her again until heaven, but I feel so close to her. I talk to her all the time. I have a picture of her on the mantle right under Mary's picture, and we talk all the time, you know, all the time. And I just feel her presence. Like this morning, I felt her saying, I'm going to be with you, Mom. I mean, I think she's right here, and her arms right around me. And I know it. I just know that I know. And Mary's here, Elise is here, and the rest of the family is with me. But God is with us. He never abandons us. He always likes to shine that light in the middle of the darkness. He never wants us to feel alone. He wants us to know that that deep joy, that abiding joy of his, comes in suffering. No matter how big, cat 5, cat 6, cat 10, he's there because he loves us that much. And he has a place planned for each and every one of us. Just like he planned it for Elise, he's got it for us. He's got it for us. I'm going to ask my son, Bo, if you would come up. There's a song that touched me this past week because I think it speaks to exactly what we all go through in our lives. It speaks to the trials, the suffering, the storms, but he wants us to know that he is there at all times. It's called The Eye of the Storm. And I asked him to sing. We have a chorus, and there's one verse that really speaks to me about where I've been. But to know that in the eye of the storm, if we hang on to the anchor, he is the anchor. And his mom is always right there with us. He's getting his guitar ready. And the verse I wanted to close with before Bo begins to sing is Romans 8:28. God will bring, he does bring, he will bring good to all those who are called according to his purpose. No matter where we are, no matter who we are, no matter what we're doing, he is going to bring the best out of it, and we trust in him. Do you need this? Let me give my clip. I'm going off mic.
The song, Eye of the Storm, as Mom was saying, it sums up so much. Because we all face the storms. We don't know what's coming, what we've been through, but nonetheless, God is always with us. When the solid ground is falling out from underneath my feet, between the black skies and my red eyes, I can barely see. When I realize I've been sold out by my friends and my family, I can feel the rain reminding me. In the eye of the storm, you remain in control. In the middle of the war, you guard my soul. You alone are the anchor when the sails are torn. Your love surrounds me in the eye of the storm. When hopes and dreams are far from me and I'm running out of faith, I see the future, a picture slowly fade away. When the tears of pain and heartache are pouring down my face, I find my peace in Jesus' name. In the eye of the storm, you remain in control. In the middle of the war, you guard my soul. You alone are the anchor when the sails are torn. Your love surrounds me in the eye of the storm. In the eye of the storm, you remain in control. In the middle of the war, you guard my soul. You alone are the anchor when the sails are torn. Your love surrounds me in the eye of the storm. You alone are the anchor when the sails are torn. Your love surrounds me in the eye of the storm.
Thank you, Father Bo, and thank you, Denny. This morning you were in the presence of greatness, and I know you recognize that. And Denny, you've taught us so much, but we will always remember that trust that carried you through all those difficult moments, and we won't ever forget that. And the good news for everyone, if you have a friend who missed it this morning, this message has been live streamed. You can go to the church website and you'll wander your way through to reach it, or you can go to youtube.com/MQP Church, and you will be able to listen again to this beautiful message. You have our most deep thanks.
And I haven't, a lot of this I have not shared publicly. Whoops. Oh, shoot. Thank you. Thank you all for just inviting me, for allowing me to share something that, as I said, has been deep in my heart. I haven't shared publicly. It's been a real blessing for me. It's been very healing for me also. So you all are a blessing to me as well. Thank you very much.
Saint Denny of the North Shore, inspired by Saint Elise in her heavenly home. Now, as I told you, these mornings of reflection have been brought to you by the Catholic Foundation. And this morning, I have with the assistant to the director of the Catholic Foundation, Kathy Zimmerman. Kathy?
On behalf of all of us at the Catholic Community Foundation, I'd like to tell you what a blessing it is for us to be able to offer mornings of reflection like this. And of course, this morning was incredibly rich, and it was exactly what I needed to hear this morning. But the Catholic Community Foundation is all about generosity, and we have many programs that promote generosity, and including putting on Lenten mornings of reflection to Advent mornings of reflection. We have funds that can be established through the Catholic Foundation to show your generosity. We have our Catholic Women in Action Committee that, in addition to doing these mornings of reflection, does many other projects within the community. And we also have sponsor a Women's Giving Circle. The Women's Giving Circle was begun in 2016. We're now in our 7th year. And in our lucky 7th year, we will be giving out a total of, in this collective 7-year period, $1 million in grants to archdiocesan groups. So it's an incredibly wonderful, living miracle of generosity, because these women who were in this giving circle have been very inspirational to me, are very devoted to their faith and devoted to the idea of giving back to their community. So if you would like some information on it, I know some of you have already taken some packets of information, but I'll be around for a few minutes and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Another of our endeavors of the Catholic Community Foundation is the Aspiring Scholars Program. And the Aspiring Scholars Program is probably a program that many of you do not know much about. But today we have Julie Talbot with us, who's going to give us a little bit about that. Thank you.
Good morning. How are you? Thank you for giving me just a few minutes of your time to talk about Aspiring Scholars. I feel blessed to be here today to hear both of the messages. It's been a highlight of my morning and probably a highlight of my whole Lent the month leading into Easter. So thank you again for having me. So yes, I'm here to tell you about Aspiring Scholars. It is a Louisiana state tuition scholarship program. I'm sure many of you are looking at me going, what was that again? I do have a few questions for all of you. It's kind of silly questions, but do all of you pay Louisiana state income tax? This is the first question. Unfortunately, yes, we all do. The second question, are you connected to Catholic school, whether you attended a Catholic school, your children attended Catholic school, maybe your grandchildren are now attending Catholic schools? I would think most of this crowd is nodding yes. And the third question is, how many love their Catholic faith and want to see more participation in their own parishes? Sure, that's a no-brainer in this crowd, so yes. So as you know, Catholic school is not free. As we all have sacrificed to put our own children in these schools, it's a hardship. And that's where Aspiring Scholars comes into play. We exist as an organization to ask people like you, like me, to use their tax liabilities, so your income tax, your state income tax, so we can provide scholarships to send students to Catholic schools. So we all have agreed, we all have to pay state taxes anyway, so why not take this opportunity to direct these funds, it's really directing the state funds, to pay to send a child to Catholic school. Cheat sheet. It's actually a pretty simple process, believe it or not. Usually when I say taxes, even my face glazes over, and my eyes, and I have to take a step back. But all it takes is for you to make a donation to Aspiring Scholars. They receive, that's me, or Aspiring Scholars in whole, receives a tax credit from the state of Louisiana, and it's in the form of a certificate that would come to you individually in the mail. Then you hand that to your CPA when you're actually filing your taxes, or you might be doing your taxes yourself. Simple as that. But 95% of your gift goes to covering this scholarship. And it is a scholarship. It is not I'm sure some of you have heard of a program that's a full 100% coverage. This is simply a scholarship. The rest, the 5%, is used as for administration cost, but however, you can also deduct that from your federal charitable income tax deduction. So if you donate more than you're liable for this year, don't worry, because it will roll over up to 3 years in the future. So if you don't know exactly how much you have to give back to our Louisiana state government, don't be afraid, it will not go unused. So many families want this opportunity for their children to attend Catholic schools. They desire that high quality academic, but as well as that spiritual opportunity for their children. We are here ready to make that happen for these families. And if you think, if each one of us just in this room alone would donate $1,000, really that's $950, but if each one of us would do that, we could send up to 18 to 20 kids to a Catholic school. So that's like a whole classroom. That's a whole kindergarten class. That's a 9th grade class in some schools. Today, I'm asking you just to learn a little more about the program. I know it's tax credits. They can be confusing. Please stop by my table. I would love to talk to you more, answer your questions. I also have some forms you could fill out. I can send you some more information about it. I can even send it to your CPA if you would like. I'm here to help you learn more so that you can make this gift, and directly, like I said, it's actually directing your state taxes to send a student to Catholic school in your community. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Julie, and most tax accountants will know exactly what that's all about, but the paperwork is in the back of church, so as you exit, you can grab it. The interesting thing is Julie didn't ask you to pay any more taxes than you're already paying. She's just simply saying that those taxes can actually be directed to the programs in the school. In addition to the regular Catholic school, you can also direct it to St. Michael's Special School for children to attend there as well. Now, you can stay with us. We have the Marian Stations of the Cross, and I'll see that the booklets are passed out if you don't already have one. And if Alicia Nolan is ready, and my committee will grab the cross and be prepared to take you through the stations, and Cindy and Paulette will be going out into the yard for the outdoor Stations of the Cross. And Judy Green, I think, is going out to help sing. And interesting, inside the book are the verses of the Stabat Mater.
Who's singing? I know who's
Oh, they have 3 people. Lynn, you see, Lynn, Mary Louise, Marcia, and Lynn Restell. Yeah.
So wait till they're over here. Where's the cross?
Yeah.
Mary Jane. Mary Jane. looking for the